Like when you're an electrician, what's so uniquely great about an electrician? When they come to your house or your business, before they leave, they know they cannot get that check unless those lights are on, because that's the job they went there to do. And the thing about these politicians that we have in place right now, they are not qualified because they have a master's degree. They are not qualified because they've held office before. You're only qualified based upon your merit, your character, and your ability to get things done for your constituents in your community. And they have no track record of that.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This episode of the It's Needed podcast is brought to you in part by Thin Line Anthem supplement brand. Thin Line Anthem is a supplement brand created by first responders for first responders. Listen, your boy is getting up there in age, meaning my joints ain't the same and my memory is going, which is exactly why I take their omega-3 blend daily. Make sure you hop on their website, thinlineanthem.com, and right before you check out, enter the promo code It's Needed, all capital letters, no space, and they'll hook you up with 20% off your entire order. And before you check out, throw them omega-3s in your cart because they make a difference. Believe me when I say that. Enjoy the podcast.
Yo, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the It's Needed podcast, where we discuss real issues involving law enforcement in the community. It's your boy Ryan Tillman, founder of Breaking Barriers United, and I'm joined today by the light-skinned wonder himself, Mr. Oh No, it's the Popo.
What up? What up? What up? Don't forget this beer coming back in, so you know, give it a few more weeks, and this might be a different announcement.
Bruh, don't bring that lumberjack back. Keep that Rick Ross meets lumberjack to yourself. We also got the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Billy in the building. What's going on, Billy?
Just enjoying doing this podcast in the sauna today.
Why you say his name like that? What's going on, Billy? why you say it like that, man?
Because I felt like it, bro.
You better put some respect on Billy's name. You better quit playing with him.
Oh, man. It's funny because Billy over here is sweating up like a storm, bro. He's over here. He keep doing this
I'm
with
about
his
to do
shirt.
this shirtless right now, man.
No, don't do that, Billy. Don't do that.
Oh man, it's funny. So real quick before we get to our special guest, we had a podcast sighting the other day. I was at work actually, and some lady approached me, sweet lady, and she was like, "Oh my goodness, man, Ryan, like, oh, I listen to the podcast all the time." She started going into all these different episodes and this and that, and so she was like, "Man, one thing though, like." I love Billy. I love hearing him, but I've never seen him. Like, we got to get Billy on the video. So
we got to fix that there,
yeah,
Billy.
We got to fix that.
Billy, show your face real quick. Come on, just show your face for the camera.
Not today. Not today,
Come
guys.
on,
Sorry.
Billy. Come on. It's all right. Looking like a glazed donut stick right now.
Oh man, so that was cool. Shout out to you for listening to us. I really appreciate you, and any guest that listens to us, that sees us in public. Thanks for not being shy and coming up to us, because it really means the world to us to know that our message is getting out. But without further ado, I want to introduce our podcast guest for today. I was truly looking forward to this one. I mean, I'm always looking forward to every guest that we have on the podcast, but this one actually hit a little differently today, just because I actually started following this guy a few months ago. Somebody, I think my wife and I stumbled upon you. I can't remember how it was. And then ever since then, I've had multiple people hit me up saying, "Man, Ryan, you got to get connected with this dude. You guys are very similar in many ways." And so again, as I've been following your message and everything, I really, really love what you're doing. And so our podcast guest today, his name is Major Williams, and he is a candidate for the California governor spot. So what is going on, Major? Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me on. We've just been enjoying this momentum, evolving and connecting and engaging with our communities or counties or whatever. And so I'm appreciative to be on this platform with you so I can talk to some of your listeners and let them know why I'm qualified, but also just why I love California. And I'm working every single day to restore it and make sure that we are able to remain Californians. You know, that's important. That's super important.
Man, well, one of the things I love is, first and foremost, I love the hat, the gear you're wearing. Jesus is essential. That is so essential. And you guys know, if you listen to this podcast, if you're advocate followers of this podcast, you know that's why me, AJ, and Billy do it, is because he's priority. And so the mere fact that you lead with that is just phenomenal, man. And so man, I can't tell you. I don't even know where to begin. But before we get into your story, who you are, what I want to do is I want to touch on some current events, just because that's one of the things we always do. And one of the most current events that's coming out, I'm sure if you guys haven't seen it already, but there was a shooting in Washington, or not Washington, but Wisconsin, involving an officer who shot a guy that was walking back to his car. I guess a protest have already started. And so, man, scary and dangerous situation. And the unfortunate reality of what we're living in nowadays is that you see a bad police video, you see a use of force, whatever it may be, and then people want answers like now. And so one of the things I want to caution people on doing is, if somebody goes out there and commits a crime, whether it be a murder, assault with a deadly weapon, whatever it may be, that's not a police officer, that suspect has the right to a trial that can take forever to happen. They have the right to, due process and have a thorough investigation going on. And so the thing is that officer, whoever's involved in that use of force, they also should have that right to the same due process as anybody else, to be able to determine whether or not they're guilty or not. And the reason I say that's so important is because right now we live in a microwave society. You see a use of force video, and now everybody they're hitting us up like, hey, is this right or is this wrong? And I get it. You guys want to know because you want to make sure that everything is okay. But at the same time, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered before we can determine whether or not this was a justified shooting or not. So, AJ, I know you saw it, man. I want to get your thoughts real quick. And Major, have you seen that video yet?
I didn't see it. I actually seen someone send a link to me, but I haven't had a chance to put my eyes on it.
It's
so
coming.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about it and you guys' perspective as well.
It's coming. I know you're going to be getting hit up with, especially since you're a candidate for governor, because people are going to want to know where your stance is on some of the issues involving law enforcement and community and stuff like that. So, and
Absolutely.
just so you know, basically what the gist of it was, you had a guy that I guess there was a domestic violence dispute that happened, and there's some guy that's trying to get involved, trying to break it up. Officers get there. When they get there, all we see in the video is this guy walking away from officers as they're trying to stop him. One of the officers has the taser out. The guy goes to get in his car, and then the officer shoots the guy in his back about 7 times. So the guy is still alive,
Oh, wow.
last I checked. It definitely looks like a terrible video, but that's all we see from the video. So what are your thoughts?
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I did see that. I'm sorry. We did see that. I didn't hear like the sound or whatever, but Wayne was letting me know what particular video that was. We did see that this morning, so we did see it.
Man, yeah. So terrible.
But I think it's kind of like I think it's kind of like what you said though, and from your perspective, I think it's powerful because you have the duality of both perspectives. Like you're a human, you're a citizen as well, but you've also been on the side of law enforcement, so you can bridge that gap in communication effectively enough to hopefully try to put people in the right mindset to understand that this is a due process. Just like with all things, if you're a regular person and you commit a crime or alleged to commit a crime, you still have to go through a certain process. And so it's kind of like on us as regular citizens to try to go through that process as well. And it's hard because like you say, everyone wants instant results, and we're emotional at that particular moment. And we've had these mass media images portrayed that's just really been force fed to us over and over again, also through social media, to where it makes us seem like that occurrence happens 10 times per day. And so the thought process of it, when it does happen, is heightened even more so. And so it's a complex balance to try to have from a leadership perspective, from the police department perspective, and also from the community perspective as well too. And so it's never going to get easier when it comes to that. But what can become better is people like us, when we're using our voices and our platforms to make sure that we're messaging to everyone, not just to a particular group or a particular side.
Boom, man. You couldn't have said it any better. What are your thoughts on that, AJ?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's frustrating to a degree because so many people, send me these videos when they first come out, which I appreciate. But what catches me off guard and what's frustrating about it are the captions and the messages that go along with the video, and the narration that people paint, and the story that they try to tell. This is a murder. This is a cold-blooded murder. It's just like, for all we know, that guy could have had a grenade in that car and he could have been reaching for it and grabbing it, and that officer could have saved a lot of people's lives by taking those actions. So it is a rough video to see, and anytime something like that happens, it's going to be rough to see, but we can't jump to conclusions, just automatically think like, well, the cops murdered this guy. Because if they didn't shoot him and he grabbed an AK-47 and killed a bunch of people, then you'd be upset. Like, well, why didn't the cop shoot this guy? You know what I mean? Like, there has to be a balancing act. You just can't automatically see a video like that and be so emotionally overwhelmed that you forget you don't know all the details.
Yeah,
and the beautiful thing about it too, though, I just want to add to that is that we've had instances where we were actually able to learn from. We've seen in times where we've all at some point probably have jumped the gun to make those accusations or whatever the case may be. And so, me personally, I just want to be more responsible as a citizen when I'm looking at these social media and these mass media projections. And I don't want to be misled. But I want justice. I think that's the bottom line to let people know. I think we all can agree that we want justice for the right actions.
Man, no doubt about it. No doubt about it, man. And you're so right on that. Both of you guys are, because, you know, we can't, like you said, there's a video, I think Officer Tatum put it out, where there's a guy that actually goes back to his car, gets a gun out, and starts shooting at the officers. Yeah. Was that a case? Wow. Was this that type of case? We don't know. And so, you know, I'm actually going to do a video today that basically talks about some of the questions that we need to ask ourselves before we can formulate an opinion. Because I think what's happening is people formulate these opinions, but they're not asking certain questions that need to be answered. And until you can get those questions answered, you got to be careful about formulating those opinions. And so, you know, I just think it's important to talk about. But I don't want to take away from the content of this podcast, because there's so much good meat that we can get from today. And so I want to just dive right in and just talk about who you are, Major. One of the things that, if you guys don't know, like I said, he is running for the California governor spot. And one of the most unique things that I loved about Major and where he's coming from is that, if you don't know, he is a Republican candidate. And the reason that's so important to see is because, as police officers, me and AJ are police officers, and one of the things, I guess, in the black culture you can say is being a police officer is not always looked upon as being the best thing ever, because you know, we see all these things on TV, the whole George Floyd thing, the history behind where policing has come in America, all those things. And so for many rightful reasons, the black community has never really been pro-police. But at the same time, how do you expect to change something unless you go and get involved in it, go and see what it's really about, and then understand how to change it? Then you can see it from a different lens. And so me and AJ have taken criticism both within law enforcement, obviously, because we recognize that there's change that needs to be made. And anytime you change anything in society, people don't like that, especially sometimes when you are a person of color. But then at the same time, we've taken heat from the own people of our community because we're police officers, and yet we're seen as working for the system that's oppressing our people. And so as a Republican, one of the things I've noticed lately is that it's almost that same type of thing where you see a black Republican. So I grew up in a Democratic household. My mom and dad, you know, Democrats, my sisters, my family, and my mom and dad and family, good people, like really good people. And growing up, when I start talking about politics with them, I didn't really know much other than the only thing I really knew about being Democrat was that Democrats want to help everybody out. That's kind of how I perceived being a Democrat. So when I grew up, that's all I knew. It wasn't until I got older and start, you know, getting real advocate of being a firm believer in my faith in Jesus Christ, and start, you know, working and making money and start learning about politics in a different way, that I start realizing, like, I don't know if Democrat is the way I necessarily go with. But then at the same time, I felt bad in a sense. I felt like I felt wrong for saying I identify Republican, because that's not how I grew up. Like, and people were going to cast stones at me. So I've always, from that time, almost considered myself as an independent, because as an independent, I felt like that would allow me to see kind of both sides, which is kind of where I've been in law enforcement, is I'm able to see both sides. So Major, I briefly heard a little bit about your story when we talked. And so I want you to tell our audience who you are. I know you mentioned you grew up as a Democrat yourself as well. And so Tell us who you are and kind of how you got to be where you're at now, and what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, you know, I grew up kind of similar, as you said. You know, I grew up in a very Democratic household, and we were all Democrats by default, whether it be my grandparents being, you know, Democrats as well. But I wasn't politically active for, you know, years and years and years and years. Not until probably like 5 years ago did I get really educated in politics. And my thing I tell everyone is that when you are when you're educated in policy and understanding what policy is, and also looking at some of the facts and data that exist for us to be able to make, or decisions based upon what we want to do party wise, to me, there was a laundry list of items that the Democrat Party that I felt like was detrimental to our communities. One of those things being the ideology of what welfare represents. Democrats hold free, free, free over your head, and they market that very effectively. I was able to be in a household, be around my mother that was on welfare for over 20 years, and I saw not only what it did to her and her ambition and willingness to go out there and really get something for herself and evolve past that ceiling, but I also saw what it did to me and my DNA makeup because I wanted to blame everyone else but me. It was everyone else's fault but myself. I took no accountability. I thought the world owed me every single thing, right? And that set me back, which is why I always call myself a late bloomer. Over the last 10 years, I have redeveloped myself, got closer with God. I'm very rooted with my faith. And I just took accountability and I re-educated myself. I relearned and I started making better decisions for my life because I was able to look at other examples that said, "Hey, I would want that for myself." How did they acquire that lifestyle? How did they acquire that success? And me personally, not having a lot of mentors in my life, especially mentors on a higher wavelength level capacity. I had to go and find those mentors through YouTube and watching people like you guys doing great things and giving us messages that I don't hear in my everyday life. And so for the last 10 years, from the last 10 years is why I am who I am today. But as far as the Republican aspect of it, even today, all of my siblings and my parents, they're Democrats. But my situation is a little different. They love me to death. Like it hasn't changed, right? And because they understand who I am, and this is what a lot of people need to understand when they hear the Republican word, especially with people that look like me. I consider myself a hybrid. That means multiple things. That means that I have empathy. That means that I have a dual perspective. It's like, yo, I get it. I come from where you came from, but I'm telling you, in order to get to that next level, if you truly want to get there, I'm not going to give you $100. I'm actually going to give you the secret sauce on how you can make that $100 yourself over and over again, which gives you the unique power to be able to translate that to someone else. And that's how we build the bridges of empowerment. And that comes and starts with leadership and how you empower yourself and how you actually use your platform for good. And so I always am open for the conversations when it comes to why are you Republican? The Republican Party is part of the KKK, the white supremacists. They're the ones who oppress us and hold us back, et cetera, et cetera. And no different like with law enforcement. I'm always fighting, not really fighting, but I engage in that conversation. I welcome it because I know it comes from a misinformed place. And so if it's my job and my duty and I get the honor to be able to change a few minds because we never accomplish anything in that space 100%, then I've done a good job for myself. And as far as running for governor as a Republican governor, I think it's prime time for a candidate like myself to be able to insert himself in this race for this state that it wants to truly empower everybody. It's about Californians. I don't care if you're LGBTQ. I don't care if you're Hispanic. I don't care if you're white. I don't care what your religion is, because we are all unified in the fact that we are frustrated with the brand of leadership that exists right now in California. And that's what I'm working to restore.
Man, that's deep. Go ahead, AJ, because I know I see you over there shaking your head.
Man, that's just powerful. And you said you have not received any pushback from like your family and loved ones who are still Democrats since you switched to being a Republican?
No, we have some juicy conversations,
Sure.
But like I said, if it's a real family, they know your pedigree.
There you go. That's the word, real.
They have seen my mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
They've seen me learn from my mistakes. They've seen me grow. They've seen me grow up in a household without a dad. They've seen me figure it out. They've seen the work that I've put in, no different than the woman that I married, that I've been with for 20 years. She said, "Oh my gosh, you're an amazing." She pours into me all the time because she's seen me at my lowest, right? She met me when I was 23, 24 years old, and she's, I'm a man, right? But she said, "Boy, you have certainly grown up right before my eyes, and I love everything about about you, and that in itself just gives me even more power in the drilling to be the best version of myself as I possibly can. And we're all everyday works in progress. But when you have those, people like your older sister saying, like, man, I'm really proud of you. Like, no, I'm really proud of you. And this is the older sister that was taller than me for a very long time until I was like 14. And then she reminded me she was still my big sister when she punched me in the eye when I was 14 years old.
Oh yeah, that is a good wake up right there. That is a good wake up right there. So I know there's a lot of disconnect between politicians and law enforcement when it comes to like major cities. At least talking to the officers that I know that work in major cities. So first and foremost, I have to say that it's refreshing to hear the way that you think and what you stand for, despite what party you represent, despite a lot of things. It's just very refreshing to know that you're in the position, you're running for that office, and you have the capability really to just see both sides and to go, hold on, wait, let's get the details before we cast a stone and throw judgment. And I would say that if a lot of politicians had that thought process, that we would be in a lot better position than we are today. With that said, can you give some advice to anybody who may be running for office or any politician that listens to this, whether they're in city council, the governor's office, mayor, chiefs, whatever, to help them navigate through that rough terrain that you're doing right now?
Oh, absolutely. So it comes in two different versions. One of them, you can just track the success of what I represent, and I'm honestly just telling you my truth. I don't have a platform. I just had, I'm just sharing my truth every single day. These are the things that I believe. These are the things that I've been able to evolve into as well. But for anyone that's in a leadership role, first of all, that's the key word, leadership. You're not just your individual person. You are a public figure that you have to make sound decisions based upon your constituents, right? You can't be rogue only for this group or for this ethnicity or for this party or for this team or whatever. You can't be that as a true leader. And so one of the ways that I'm going to fight against that is giving them that example. They're the way that they are because they don't see a lot of examples of real leadership. Real leadership. And so if you show through a tangible action of me showing up consistently every single day, using my voice, using my actions and platforms and policies that I will be pulling in place, then you're going to see real leadership. It's just like growing up in a house with a strong dad, right? If you're growing up, you're going to be like in the wild west if you don't have a dad, so to speak, and you can make all these different decisions based upon, like me with my three sons. They know that I exist. They know my presence. They feel my presence. They're getting poured into every single day, and that is a lot what's missing even on a bigger scale when it comes to these politicians. They need to see it tangibly, see real leadership, and see the outcome of it. I don't know if you guys know this, and I didn't know this until recently. If you look at the trajectory of my campaign, as I announced 52 days ago, I am the fastest rising Republican candidate ever in California.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Did not know that.
California, as far as the data, the statistics with the social media and the buzz, it's because what is going on right now is the timing, but also it's the messaging and how you are appealing to people. As a guy on Hollywood yesterday, what a lot of LGBT, some of the ones want to think of Republicans and our president like we're anti them or whatever. This guy came up to me with he wants to be an ambassador for my campaign of the LGBT, even though he knows my qualities and my stance is what it is. But at the same time, he understands my overall message. My overall message is you're a Californian. I'm not getting trapped in all these other conversations, but you're in California, then I care about you. How can we work to empower your life? So that's what it comes down to.
So one of the things, Major, you said as Major, I like that, like how I did that. So one of the things that you said as Major is the mere fact that people know what you stand by. I'm going to go back to scripture because again, that's where I get a lot of my wisdom from. If you look at Matthew 7:16 in the New Testament, it says you can identify them by their fruit, that is by the way they act. Can you pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? And so what I'm getting at is that it says in that, and this is actually talking about how to identify false prophets, but you can also identify true believers in Christ by the fruit that they bear. And so one of the questions that I've got, in the past, and AJ's got it before, is, are you blue or are you black first?
Right.
And one of the things that bothered me about that question is now you are associating my identification with either a color of my skin or a color of the uniform that I wear. And I
Right.
told them that my foundation, my identity is through Christ Jesus first. And so regardless of me being a police officer, regardless of me being a black man in America, regardless of me being Republican, Democrat, independent, whatever it is, I'm a believer in Christ first. And that is what sets the foundation in the way I'm going to navigate, in the way I look at things and evaluate things. And I think so many times right now we're getting pigeonholed into thinking that if you're not this, I can't listen to you. And we talked about this many times before. I had a conversation with this lady named Alice Johnson this morning. Now, Alice Johnson, you might be aware of who she's actually going to be speaking at the Republican National Convention this week. But Alice Johnson she was granted clemency by Donald Trump, and she was assisted by Kanye West and Kim Kardashian for being incarcerated for life in prison over drug trafficking. Well, anyways, Alice Johnson is a tremendous figure, and she's the sweetest lady I've ever met. And it's sad that she's saying, Ryan, like, I'm not doing anything to please anybody. I have to do what's right from a moral and ethical standpoint and as a believer in Christ Jesus. But the sad thing is that she feels that a certain type of way because people cast stones at her because she's speaking at the RNC. And my thing is like, when can we get beyond? I think one of the most powerful things you said is that I'm a Republican. My whole family is Democrat, but yet we still love each other just as much, and we don't allow this whole identity conflict to draw a wedge. And I think right now we're allowing these labels to draw wedges in between us as people. And so one of the things I want to ask you, Major, is, how have you gotten beyond that? Not only just in your personal life, but how have you been able to stay strong and true to your message despite the ridicule that I know you face? You know what I mean? Because I'm sure it ain't easy being a black man that's a Republican that's running for governor.
Yeah.
I'm sure it ain't easy. And so tell me how you've been able to navigate that water.
Well, honestly, everything starts with mindset and a culture that you create within yourself and also around you. And once you have consistency in anything, just like with working out and training or whatever, you have to work those muscles every single day. So you have to work that mentality and that mindset every single day to cultivate it, to keep it solid, to keep it sane. And I tell people all the time, you really just have to be rooted in your faith. If you are a true believer, that gives you so much strength as well to be able to, and just pray for people. Even when people don't agree with you, that's a reality, right? You don't have to win every single debate, but just express yourself in a loving way, respectfully, and just keep it pushing at the end of the day. I think it's always going to be a challenge to a certain degree, but it's something that is worth working towards. Like, I don't want to be identified solely as this or solely as that. And I'll share a quick example with you guys and something that's going on right now behind the scenes as far as when you're talking about being attacked. I went to Minneapolis right when George Floyd was killed. The intent was to go out there and to understand what was going on, because we were seeing on social media that all these black people were looting and tearing up the cities or whatever. So as a public official, as a leader, I went out there with some other guys, and we wanted to promote and advocate for peaceful protesting. So during this time, we spoke at multiple rallies out there, and we sat out there 2 or 3 days. And during that time, we got a nickname. They call us the LA Boys, right? And so every time we walked into a neighborhood, they was like, "Oh, I guess those are LA Boys," because we're the only people in full-blown suits, right?
Yeah.
It's going out there to talk to people in the communities. We spoke with all kind of activists, elected officials, people that were running for public offices, and the main objective, the foundation of it, was to be out there for peaceful protest. Well, certain individuals in the Republican Party and also some black people, there were pictures that was taken of us being a part of a march called Breath of Life, which we created from a hashtag. During this protest, it started out with 500 people, ended up being close to 30,000 people walking in this protest. So for us, it was powerful. So all the positivity that came from that, the only thing that certain individuals, especially some of the Republicans that actually ran with this, that are with this narrative that Major Williams is a Black Lives Matter organization supporter, because there was individuals that joined our march. There was 5 different rallies happening that particular day.
Wow.
But because these individuals walked next to our march in the same street. It's a public street, and they had their own banner, which they are free to do, and I
Mm-hmm.
support 100%. I'm not in someone else's territory there to tell them what they can and can't do. But because of that image and that picture, which I shared on my Instagram and my social media, now everyone is like, "Oh, I got you. I told you he's too good to be true. I told you he supports Black Lives Matter." To me, it's disheartening because if anyone has followed me from the past or even now, you know what I stand for. I've advocated against Black Lives Matter organization based upon the mission statement and the things that they have not done with the amount of money that they have raised.
Mm.
Period. But I support the black community, and you're not going to strip that away from me. And also for the white Republicans out there that are MAGA driven, which I love, but the ones that are out there antagonizing, I'm going to tell you this: just because you see black people that are marching with black people peacefully doesn't automatically assume that they are with Black Lives Matter. So we need to cut that out. We need to stay
Tell 'em.
solid. We need to stay focused because we have work to do. It's about restoring California. It's not about being petty. We need to mature as individuals and also voters moving forward. So sorry to get that rant.
No,
but
no, we
really,
needed that. We needed
Mm.
that, man. It is crazy because God is raising up people all over the country right now, the world, doing things that are just miraculous. That's a miracle right there. And that's one of the things. I actually went out to Minneapolis a couple weeks ago as well, and I was on a call last week, and on the call, it was a very prominent call. There's a lot of prominent figures on there, but there's a lot of people that don't see things or view things the way I do. Very
Right.
polar opposite. But also on this call was Leon, which we all, if you've listened to this podcast before, Leon is somebody that was shot 5 times by police. And then we also had Artie on this call, and Artie was sentenced to life in prison. And so all these other prominent figures, they're talking about all this stuff about, bashing the Democratic Party or bashing the Republican Party, bashing these people. And it got to me, and I said, look, if you really want real change, you got to be able to come along people that don't see things the same way you do it and just befriend them, get to know them, get to understand them, be able to have educated conversations with them. Not saying that you're going to agree, but also being able to do it in a way that says, hey, look, yeah, me and you are in the same place, and we all, the way God has created us, we're all free to think however we want to think, but I can still befriend you as my brother. I still call Leon my brother, Artie my brother. And so that's what we've lost in society today, unfortunately. And so when you go out there and do those marches, you can be able to march. I've said from the very beginning that I identified with the slogan Black Lives Matter because the slogan in and of itself is a true slogan. Black Lives Matter, just like everybody else. White Lives Matter, Asian lives. That in and of itself is a true statement. But like you said, I don't agree with the values based upon their mission statement, things like that. And that's coming from a spiritual place.
And I'm talking about the organization, right?
Yes.
And I'm not demeaning the slogan of it, right? That's all good. And one of the things that really bothered me also, especially with Republicans, like I get all this momentum right now. I'm not even getting attacked by Democrats right now. You know why? Because a lot of them are calling me every single day in support of what we are doing. So the ideology of that is mind-boggling to me. And I'm just like, hey, one of them said that, Republicans don't do this. Republicans don't do that. Well, this is not your grandfather's Republican Party anymore. This is a new era. This is a new time. We are engaging. We are leaders. I'm not necessarily an activist. I'm a full-blown God-led leader that's looking to unify and connect us so we can actually move forward. When are we going to change that trend of that perpetual cycle, like a dog chasing their tails? I'm about completion. Like when you're an electrician, what's so uniquely great about an electrician? When they come to your house or your business, before they leave, they know they cannot get that check unless those lights are on, because that's the job they went there to do. And the thing about these politicians that we have in place right now, they are not qualified because they have a master's degree. They are not qualified because they've held office before. You're only qualified based upon your merit, your character, and your ability to get things done for your constituents in your community, and they have no track record of that. And so we're going to change that paradigm and narrative and have police officers running for offices and have other people running for office. That was a plumber in this town for 20, 30 years. You know why? Because they know how to run a business. They know how to be savvy. They have an imagination, and they have to figure out how to keep their lights on every single day also. And that's what we need to restore, not only this state, but also our country. And we have that in Donald Trump as well, because he's a business guy. He's not the most articulate like Obama or, politically correct. But this guy gets the job done, and he's on attack every single day, when it comes to that. So we have work to do, but I'm excited for what we can do together.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I want to take a brief second to acknowledge our sponsor for this podcast, which is Thin Line Anthem. Thin Line Anthem is an organization that was started by first responders for first responders, and it's solely based for your personal health and wellness. If you're one of those persons that's trying to get back into shape, if you're trying to lose some weight, whatever it may be, take their products, their protein, their omega-3s, their pre-workout. It's a phenomenal product. We use it, and I wouldn't be putting it out there unless I used it. So if you want to use their products, make sure you go on to thinlineanthem.com and utilize the promo code, which is It's Needed, all caps, no spaces, at checkout, so that way you can get access to 20% off of their products. Thanks again, and I hope you continue to enjoy this podcast. Well, and that's what I was going to say too, and I'll jump it back over to you, AJ, but I remember when I first started doing the work I was doing, I felt like I was getting attacked from inside more than I was actually the people that you would think would be attacking me. And sometimes that actually happens is, you're going to take that attack from people that you're actually supposed to be allied with. And so what we have to do is we got to be able to find that way to continue to push forward and move forward without being distracted. One of the things that, and so for people that know me, one of the reasons I find, or where I identify with, is all my stuff is based off of biblical principles. And that's what allows me to see clearer. That's what allows me to, going back to the Black Lives Matter thing, is like when you go on to their mission of the organization, that does not align it's not in one accord with my faith. And so that's what, so kind of going into my next question is, let's just say, I think a lot of times people that identify with a certain party, it's tough for them to jump ship because this is all I've known, and change is very, very hard. And it almost seems like you have to drop your pride for a second and almost admit, oh, wow, you were right type thing. And I want to tell people that's not the case. It's not admitting that this other party is right. It's not admitting that this person is wrong. But if you're one of those people, and this could be a Republican jumping a Democrat or Democrat jumping a Republican, but I don't think that you should always, be so fixated and focused on this is going to be the party I align with for the rest of my life. Kind of like in law enforcement. In law enforcement, you go on a critical incident, just because it may have started out as a shooter that's shooting somebody, all these people, doesn't mean that the moment I see him, I get to shoot him myself. No, I got to stop and I have to reassess. And what does that mean by reassessing? That means I got to reassess the scene. Is he still an active threat? Is he still shooting people? Is he still running towards people? If he's not doing any of those things, now I got to reassess, and I have to come up with a different game plan to take him into custody. Well, it's the same thing almost when identifying what political party you identify with. If you started out as a Democrat and you became a Christian or whatever and start following biblical principles, and now all of a sudden you see that these don't align with what your biblical principles are telling you to, well, maybe it's time for a reassessment. The same way it is even if you're a Republican. And like I said, I go both ways because I'm more focused on you reassessing yourself as a person as opposed to you just identifying with the political party because that's what you've always done your whole life. We have to be able to reassess ourselves as individuals because we're always growing, we're always developing. And if you're not trying to educate yourself, if you're not trying to be an advocate as far as what you believe in for your family, your values and morals and ethics, then you're going backwards. And AJ, I see you shaking your head, man. Add some onto that, man, because I know you got something.
I just think it's very, I'll use the term funny that you, Ryan, and myself have faced and continue to face a lot of opposition within the field of law enforcement. And it has always been like extremely like mind-boggling and like frustrating to me. But just speaking with Major, I realized something. Anytime that you join a group, whether it's a political party, a profession, a group of friends, what have you, and you're fluid in that group, meaning that you're able to go, yeah, I really support like most of what we're doing here, but I don't really like that. Or, I'm going to do things a little different because I don't like the way things have been done here. You face opposition because you stand out and you're willing to change the things that needed to be changed. So I absolutely applaud you for that, Major. I absolutely applaud you because it seems like we live in a world where a lot of people in general, not even politically speaking, are afraid to do exactly that. They get in a position, whether it's a group of friends, whether it's a profession, whether it's a political party, and they stand firm with whatever the majority or whatever the past of those groups have shown. And they don't want to grow, or they don't want to isolate something that needs to be changed and to force that change. So I absolutely applaud you in that. Absolutely.
And one of the things I tell people too, especially what's going on with the pandemic, and even like when they have those grievances with me on my ideology, it's about, if you are uncomfortable right now, you should actually embrace it, because oftentimes when you have that uncomfort, that means you're actually close to a breakthrough. And so to have the version of candidate that I myself am in this current time right now, if Republicans truly care about the Republican parties, and I'm very adamant about this, if you want to win, do not go and support the old white guy with the white hair anymore. They're not going to win simply because they have a long track record of being politicians or in this space, and they had never had the messaging that actually resonated with Californians. It was always for the Republican Party. And that in itself has to change. If you guys really want to win, if you really want the conservative values to be represented, get behind me, be a resource, be an ally. If I don't know everything, pour into me, work with me, work for us. That's what it's truly about. We don't have, even being on the same team, we don't have to agree 100%, but let's support each other how we can so we can be effective and push the needle forward at the end of the day. And that's what it's all about with me.
So what message would you have for the Democratic Party? What positive message would you have for them? Because again, I would imagine some of our listeners are probably Democrat as well. So what message would you have for them, and what would be your message to them as far as, why they should at least even hear somebody like you out?
Well, the first aspect of it is that I am here for them, and my campaign and my governorship will be for all of California. So they would not be excluded, and they would not be voiceless under my administration. At the same token, I am here to represent them. I'm here to empower them. I'm here to help them get the accomplishments that they are looking for. And I'm also here to address their issues aggressively, because they matter as well. And so when it comes to having those conversations about abortion, let's use that for, one of the things that some of the Democrats bring out. There's like, Major, I really like you, but I really am not. I'm not sold on you because of your pro-life stance. Well, I'll tell them, I say, I'm going to be honest with you. Yes, I am pro-life, but my energy and my efforts are actually going to marketing and messaging to those young women that feel like they have no other alternatives and choice. It's time for our administrator to be better marketers than Planned Parenthood. Right. And so this is the type of conversations that we're having with these people. So it's like we can decrease, I want to be honest, like I call it murder. We can decrease the murders of our unborn kids when it comes to better education and having opportunities for them. So we are attacking all of their excuses. So if it's I can't, my life is over, I don't have enough money, it's too hard. Well, we want to come there and say, hey, we have these services available for you. We have great adoption services available for you. But then also just use statistics and data from people who haven't taken that route, but also the ones who were right there on the cusp, just like they were, and they decided to move forward. And let's show them how their life turned out based upon us implementing our strategies to help them move forward, get educated, have a skill, have a successful life. Because once more, just like AJ was saying earlier about other candidates, having similar type of messages, if they don't see that type of brand of leadership or things that are available, then they can never conceptualize it or see it or feel like they can get to that point, because it's never presented to them to get to that point, because no one is offering it to them other than like Planned Parenthood. So I'm open to all Democrats. I'm open to all parties and all people
and
for the benefit of. Go ahead.
I was going to ask him one of the last things before, without getting about, because I don't want to go into too many different topics, but on that topic of abortion, what about the ladies that have actually had abortions and maybe going through something? Because again, I've understood it from this, like I'm definitely pro-life for sure, but at the same time, depending on who that lady is, I'm sure at some point in their life they were going through something, they had an abortion. Now, like what could we do for them? Because that's still trauma that they've probably experienced as well. And so without making them feel guilty, and without like and especially from a biblical standpoint, is that forgiveness that they need to know and see in their heart. Like what are some of the things that your take on, not just, dealing with the whole abortion in and of itself, but the girls that have been subject to doing it, in the past, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's all correlated to forgiveness. It's all under the same umbrella. We all make bad mistakes, and we do things under duress in certain time periods in our life, whether we are mature or immature at the same time. As I said earlier, I'm a leadership that has empathy. I have a dual perspective, and I kind of lead my life in that way. And as under a leadership role, I will lead that way as well too. So there would be individuals like that that we would have to be able to welcome because they still have to exist in this
Mm.
world and in this society. And I want them to know that they are still special, they're still loved, and we want to uplift and empower them as well too, moving forward.
Boom. So I have one last question. This is kind of a different question, but then we're gonna get into something a little bit more fun. Where are we at on time, Billy?
43.
Perfect. So, me, AJ, Billy, all of us are dads on here. You're how many kids you have, Major?
I have three sons.
Three sons. Oh wow, that's
Nice.
cool. And what are their
Nice.
ages?
So it's WWWF every single night.
Oh man, that's
So
cool.
10, yeah, it's 10, 4, and 1.
Oh wow. So yeah, I got 7, 4, and 2. So
Wow.
or 7, 4, and 1. She's gonna be 2 soon. And then obviously AJ has a little one,
Fantastic.
and so does Billy. But we're raising kids, and
Congratulations.
all of us want to be good dads. All of us want to go out there. We want to be the example for our kids. As somebody, I mean, and I think both all of our kids, that one day when they get older, they're gonna see like, hey, our dads are actually out there, prominent figures doing things to change things, and they're going to be people are going to look at our kids in a certain type of way because they're going to know who their dad is, regardless if that's a good thing or a bad thing. What kind of conversation you're going to have with your kids as they get older, and when they start becoming of age of, am I going to be a Republican, am I going to be a Democrat, am I going to be independent, how do I make my decisions? Do you just lead by example? Is that a conversation you have? And the reason I ask that question is because these are things that I'm starting to think about as I get older, and as I have to start explain things to my son. I mean, my son, like I tell all of our listeners, my oldest son, he's super pro police, man. That kid, all he wants to do is be a police officer. But yet that
Right.
kid right there, he's not looking at a Wisconsin shooting of an officer shooting somebody 7 times. He's not seeing an officer kneeling down on George Floyd's neck and stuff like that. So I'm starting to think about, as he gets older and when he starts to be subjected to these things, where does that conversation piece come in? So I'm going to transition that back over to politics. Is when they start to see dad is like, hey, dad is running for California governor and I'm black and, we Republican. How do you have that conversation with them to say, hey, look, to be a free thinker and all that other stuff?
Well, I think so. Two parts of it. One of them is that when you are part of a culture or a mindset ideology, that's something that's going to happen kind of organically, no different than your son kind of leaning towards, excitement of law enforcement,
Mhm.
right? The tricky part is going to be when they are a little bit older and they have other influences out there adding to their perception of what this individual role or title truly means in regards to I'm black and I'm a Republican. Because as of right now, my kids run around and they see Donald Trump. They're like, oh, there's Donald Trump. There's your boy. There's your boy, Daddy. Right. And so there's a lot of excitement when it comes to that. But it's just having those real conversations with them and just it, if you take politics out of it, you just have to build them to be secure with themselves and give them that freedom to evolve and to grow. But just let them know where you stand and give them the freedom to be who they are as well. If they have the confidence to go out into the world, it'll be because you've done a good job, and you won't have to worry as much when other individuals get into their ears. Perfect example: I started out playing violin and the clarinet, but as soon as we moved to a certain neighborhood, I was deemed like the corny guy, and I would never get any girls, right? And so I immediately, got rid of that and started playing basketball. That was a cool jock thing to do, right? But also, I didn't have anyone to kind of like, help me with that decision making. I allowed myself to be influenced by that, and my self esteem was jolted because of that. And now, as an adult, I wish I would have kept that skill and to be able to have that talent. And so I'm glad I'm able to be here. I'm glad you guys are able to be there for your kids as well, because that'll be the underlying bridge that they actually are going to need moving forward.
Boom. AJ, do you have any other questions for him? There's a couple other things I wanted to touch real quick, but go ahead.
Yeah, I do just have a really quick question. In the era of defund the police, there's a lot of frustration. Officers are quitting, changing careers. Morale's at an all-time low. So if you could share some words of encouragement and your thoughts on defunding the police to officers, what would that be?
Well, As far as thoughts to the police, I have good friends that are police officers in Dallas, Texas, even here as well. Really good friends with the chief of police here in Pasadena, and I often have conversations with them about the reality of where we are,
Mhm.
and I also tell them, I say, this is something that you signed up for, and understand that there's a roller coaster that comes along with it. So
Mhm.
I hold, and you are right for this job, you are right for this community, you are right for this state, and we want you to hold fast. Also, we want you to hold still and allow us to get through this together, because it is still it's a togetherness on how we're going to get through it. Everyone knows that as a political figure, I don't support defund the police. I'm so puzzled why that would even come up. If we have social services or certain programs that need to be funded, we have plenty of wasteful spending here in California that we can
Hmm.
reallocate and divert those funds to that. If anything, we should be pouring more money into our officers or to the departments, so we can have more resources that are readily available for them to do the job, the most important job that there is here in our states and cities, which is protecting us. But at the same time, I think we could evolve on our messaging on what they truly represent, and law enforcement can evolve in making sure that they are actively communicating with the community. We have to restore something that is broken, and we all have to admit that on both sides there is
Mm.
something that's uniquely often something broken, and we have to put effort towards that. And it's not going to be a magic wand. It's going to take effort, and so I tell police officers that I know it's going to be hard. We have to figure it out together. Don't run from it, but know that this time is going to change because of the work that we all are doing right now.
Mm.
Love it. I love it.
So I got to play devil's advocate, and I want to do this again because Breaking Barriers United, we always try to see and be on both sides and be able to be a voice for both. So to
Right.
the person that's on the side of, this would be a question that would be coming from them is, sir, how could you see yourself endorsing or being a part of a party that's a racist party, or that's racist people that are part of this party? And again, that's not coming from me, but that's
Right.
that's what a lot of what I hear is how could you
Right.
find yourself being a part of a racist party? What would your response to that question be?
Well, first of all, I would, and people don't like this, I would ask them a question first, like, what makes this party racist? Because I'll be able to quickly identify that's actually what your party truly is, right? And the fact that you're supporting a guy right now that says, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, right? So let's really break down what races do you care about some races, or do you care about all races, right?
Mhm.
Because if that's the conversation, then we've already shattered that notion, because we know it has existed in certain places with certain individuals. So what game are we really playing, and why are we creating this barrier of communication? What is it that I stand for, and what is it that we can do together to move forward? That's the true conversation that we should be having
I love
at the end
that.
of the day.
I love that. You're so right. And the reason I asked that question is because that's what people are going to say. Well,
Yeah.
why would he endorse his racist party when they've said racist things? And the reason I say it is because I've done my own research on both sides. And the thing is like, we have to get beyond this part of just throwing out these blanket statements that aren't even necessarily always true. Like, we just throw stuff out
Right.
there like, well, they racist. Well, tell me why they racist. Same thing with law enforcement. We do that all the time with cops. Oh, well, those cops are. Recently, last week, I did a post video of the George Floyd situation. And it was funny. I knew before I posted this, I knew this was going to get some traction, and I knew it was going to get good traction and bad traction. And it was funny to see the comments that came in on the bad side of it, just because it was a video that was very neutral in many ways. And a lot of it was reaffirming and say, hey, look, after watching the police body cams of what came from George Floyd, a lot of it was reaffirming to what my preconceived notions were of it, which was George Floyd was, offering some type of opposition towards the officer. He was not complying with their instructions. He was going through some type of medical emergency that was induced by drugs. He was going through what we call excited delirium. He was freaking out, and which is what caused the officers to apply a hobble and all this other stuff. And a hobble, something that goes around the legs, and apprehend him and restrain him on the ground like they did. I understand why they did that. Where they made the mistake is they did not reassess, which is what I talked about earlier. They did not reassess and say, hey, look, if he's saying I cannot breathe, I cannot function, they did not reassess and say, hey, look, let's sit him up on his side. There was a rookie there that was saying, hey, look, should we turn him over? And the guy, George Chauvin, or whatever his name was, Chauvin said, not George, but Chauvin said, hey, look, I'm not going to turn him on. We're going to stay right here. That was a mistake on his half. That was manslaughter. But to say that was racist, how do we say that was racist? Could Chauvin be a racist? He absolutely could be a racist. We don't know. But the only way you find that out is through a track record. Did we get Chauvin's track record from an 8-minute video? We did not. But yet you had people calling it a racist act off of an 8-minute video. So the reason I bring all that up is because people don't want to go out and gather the information. They don't want to gather the facts. They just want to say stuff that's based off of opinion and emotion that has no foundation in fact. And so that's the reason I asked that question, man, because it's often thrown out there, well, you support a racist party. Well, tell me why it's a racist party or this or that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
so,
and I think that sets up a better opportunity to truly have a conversation and really break it down, because I've had so many, and I've had that question before many times, right? And oftentimes or not, it actually ends up good, or it just comes into just blind conviction, like and I asked him, I say, so can you even tell me that Trump is not so bad, like or what makes him? They can't identify anything that makes him bad. Oh, he said that there were some fine people. I said, well, if you listen to the extended clip, he actually didn't say that. He said something even more so in regards to that. And so everything that they're able to say in that realm, I'm able to debunk it to a certain degree. But it's work, man. It's work. It's what we've signed up for. As I said, I don't hold my hat on excuses.
Well, man, you're a lifelong brother, man. Before we get off, I want to mention there's a guy named Thomas Sowell, and
yes,
and there's a video. It's about an hour long, and I love what he says. And he's basically talking about people get so educated that they feel that because they're educated, they now are an expert in all these different fields. And they start they start basically giving their facts and opinions out that are not based on anything other than their education that's not even in the same field. I.e., you go out and get a master's degree or a doctorate, and now all of a sudden you're an expert in police brutality. You don't even know anything about it. So we got to be careful with that. And I think that's what's going on. That's what politics is becoming is I've gotten this level of experience and education in college, but now that makes me an expert in here. Is like, no, if I'm as a football player, when I used to play football, I used to say, a quarterback is going to play quarterback. I'm not going to make my quarterback go play middle linebacker. You know what I mean? But we live in a society where, the quarterback should be able to play strong safety, free safety, DN, D tackle. No. You're an expert in your field. So let the experts do what they do best. Let them render their opinions and then go out and find the other experts for the other topic that you're discussing. So I think there's a good video, and maybe we'll do a post as a teaser for our podcast today, but it came from the episode of Blackish. And it is when the little girl was talking to her grandmother, and she was like, oh, yeah, baby, I'm a Democrat. And she's like, well, Grandma, why are you a Democrat? Well, because, baby, you just know that's what we do. And then so the little girl starts gathering all these facts, and she does like this little quiz. And she says, Grandma, I need you to answer these questions. This is going to basically tell you whether or not you identify with Republican or Democrat. So the little girl starts asking the grandma the questions. She's like, of course, this and that. And these are all things that Republicans actually identify with. The grandma's not even realizing it. So it's just funny, but that's kind of the society we live in, man. So let's wrap it up on some. Oh, go ahead. Yes, son? Oh, okay. My bad. I thought you were saying something.
No. I was agreeing with you.
Oh, okay, cool. So fun things, man. Real quick, man. A lot of times people only see me and AJ as police officers. They don't realize that we have lives outside of work, man. What are some of the things you like to do for fun, man?
Well, I enjoy hiking. I enjoy playing basketball.
You a hooper?
I enjoy. Yeah, I'm a hooper, man. We have to go at our house, and me and my kids get out there and mix it up a little bit. But me and my wife are really good friends, man. We can actually go into our yard and talk for hours and have so much great laughter because we're both goofy like that. And we just enjoy the moments. And more important, like I said, we know what we've come from in regards to how we have evolved as human beings and also as adults. And we're just so elated and grateful, man. Like, I still have that edgy hardcore self in me, but I want to be of value and just change the dynamics of what leadership looks like. Not to say that it's all about me. I just hope that whatever I'm doing is going to inspire the next person to go and do great work as well. And I think it's what it's all about. I always talk about, the Tupac saying when he was talking in an interview, it might not be me to be the change, but if I'm that seed or that lightning that strikes it up in the next person to go out there and lead us in whatever area to do great things and foster value and empowerment, then I'm all for it. And I'm open and ready for this mission, man.
Man, that's dope. We gotta go hoop sometime. AJ knows I can hoop.
So
What's what?
wait a minute. The screen is a little different. Are you left-handed or right-handed?
Oh, I'm southpaw, baby. I'm left hand.
Oh gosh, my
And he
4-year-old is a southpaw.
and he shoot nothing but air balls. Nothing but no backboard, no rim,
But he's the
straight
athlete.
air.
He's the
Hey,
athlete.
athlete, baby.
But
I
he's an
do it all.
athlete.
I do it all. I do it all.
Hey, I'm shooting it like Dame Lillard, man. I'm taking 2 3 steps past half court. I let it fly.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, okay.
He
Okay. We might have set this up
Hey,
then.
I'm doing it too. Hey, you know what? I got just a person. We get AJ out there, my boy Arius. Come out
Yeah.
there, trick shot cop. Hey, Billy, man,
Yes.
anything? You got anything for Major before we hop off, bro?
But Major, just we have a lot of California listeners, running for governor. Why California? And what are some of the major changes you want to see?
So honestly, I want to change the dynamics of what leadership looks like, obviously, and represents. But I really want to tackle homelessness in a very creative way that I don't feel like is happening right now. I think that as a leader or as a next governor, I will not treat homelessness like a business. If you look at it like a business, that means that you want it to continue to exist at some capacity, and there's no true incentives to truly rehabilitate uh, the individuals that we are working with. And so I want to look at homelessness and do a true audit of the services that we are providing to everyone. And I want to make it incentive based. And I want to truly work towards new goals and objectives and criterias on how we get people reacclimated back into our society. We know that we have a housing issue, so we want to make sure that we reduce some of these zoning issues and just make California business friendly again. I think that's a huge component. And also having someone in leadership that's not trying to push families out with bills like SB 277 and 276, which are mandatory vaccination bills. So everyone should have the freedom of choice to choose. And I think everything that's been implemented right now is just chipping away at our civil liberties. And that's why this time here in California, why California? Because I love it. I came out here over 21 years ago. On the third day, I met an amazing woman out here that changed my life, and I've been with her over 20 some years, fostered a beautiful life, and everything that I feel like that I have evolved into is because of the culture, the energy, and the vibe of what California represents. But I've also seen a huge decline, and I also want to stick it to people. I also want to just break that sound barrier of saying the normacy of what qualifies is supposed to look like. You don't have to have 13 master degrees and been in politics 30, 40 years to be a 50 plus, 60 plus, 70 plus year old person to be in a leadership role, because this is a melting pot of ethnicities, religions, thoughts, ideology, cultures, counties, etc. And we need something that's representative of that, that's accepting of that, and doesn't govern from a one-side perspective. And that's what I represent. I want to represent all of us and empower California once more and restore it.
Boom! Drop the mic.
Mic drop.
Drop the mic.
Mic drop.
AJ, any last closing thoughts for our guests, man?
This is just another extremely encouraging episode. And it really touches on, or it should for you at least, as the listener or viewer of this, to really go out there and be the change. I know we say it time and time again, but you could post online about things that you don't like, and you could get with your friends and complain about what needs to change, and you could march and protest, which is good because it raises awareness, but there's something to be said when you're actually putting yourself in the position to implement that change, or when you're putting yourself in the position to support the people who are trying to be in the position to implement that change, and that's where the real power is. You're going to face opposition. Ryan and myself story. You're hearing it from somebody else who's not in the field of law enforcement. You're going to face it, get through it, and get it done.
There
Amen.
it is.
Amen.
And Major, man, last closing thoughts for our listeners, man. Anything encouraging you want to say to them? Any nuggets you want to give to them?
Absolutely. I just want to let everyone know this is a long journey that we have ahead of us, but we're confident that we can make it happen. But the key word is we. So that means you also as a listener. And if you support what we're doing, please go to our website, which is majorforgovernor.com. And I want to try to encourage you to become an ambassador. Ambassador keeps you informed of what's going on with the campaign, and gets you invited to special events. And also it allows you to connect with us to let us know where we need to be. We're encouraging everyone to donate a minimum of $10 a month. If we get 1 million people doing doing that, we have a fully funded campaign. Our September goal is to get 5,000 people on board. So if every listener here that's hearing this commit or contribute a minimum of $10 a month to our campaign, that allows us to continue to go up and down the coast and to be as effective and active as we possibly can, getting our messaging out there, and also engaging with everyone, because this is, and I know this is kind of cliche, this is one of the most important elections in California's history, but we truly have an opportunity to have someone in office that's representative of all of us, someone that's transparent, someone who truly wants to get behind the curtain so I can say, aha, so this is what's been happening. So that's what's the most important right now and also moving forward. So I hope and pray that you continue to support me on this journey, and also your prayers. Your prayers are immensely needed. Cover me and my family and my team that are going out there every single day, vulnerable as our physical selves are out there. But we know that God is walking with us, and your prayers are actually going to cover us even more. So we would appreciate that.
Man, Major, that's phenomenal. Where can they find you on social media and everything?
Absolutely. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MajorCAGov. And on Facebook, it's just Major Williams, California, or just Major Williams. I have 2 different sites on there, but if you put in the search engine Major Williams, you'll see those pages come up, and I encourage you to like and follow and just engage with us.
Major, that's phenomenal. And the my last closing thoughts for all our dang, I can't even talk today. The last closing thoughts for our listeners today is this. I don't care whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent. I don't care what you are, but you got to have an open mind to listen. You got to be able to listen to all people, to all sides. Even when I get in conversations with people I know I don't, agree with, I still take the time to listen, and I listen from a place of that's not hostile. I listen, and I'm not listening to come back with something and come back with them in like a battle or a debate. I'm not listening to come back and say, no, well, what about this or what about that? I'm listening because I have a true desire to listen. And so that's what I want this episode to be about, is listen to just the conversation that we've had, more than Major running for governor, man. Like I knew from the moment I saw you, brother, that you, like, if it was all of us together, man, we would be kicking it on some stuff that wasn't even political. Like, we'd be either hooping, whatever it may be, talking trash with each other. But that's just because we can identify with each other as brothers. And so that's what we got to do. That's the place that we have to get to in society, is to be able to see beyond where we identify with, whether it be political party, whether it be police officer, not police officer, and just get to identify with each other as brothers and sisters in the Lord. That's what it comes down to. And so, man, I just want to applaud you, man. You were on a courageous journey, to say the least, man. Whether just the mere fact that you're taking this opportunity to run for governor is something that's a courageous act in and of itself, because a lot of people don't understand what that comes with. Me and AJ get it on a smaller level. Anytime something crazy happens, like the Wisconsin shooting, people are blowing us up, and no matter what we say, right, you're going to have people that are either going to agree with you or they don't agree with you. And when they don't agree with you, they say some heinous things, man. So, right, it is what it is, but that's what we signed up for, and I take that and run with it. Hey, when is the election? When will the election be for you?
So it's our election is in 2022, so it's in 2 years, and it'll be here before we know it. But there's also an opportunity to recall the governor. So recallgavin.com. You can go to and sign the petition. From what I'm hearing, they have over 900,000 signatures. They need 1.4 million, but their goal is to get 2 million, and they are on their own pace to actually make that happen. If that happens, there'll be a special election in January. I'm going to win that special election. Then I will be sworn in as the 42nd governor of California in April 2021.
Wow, that's crazy. That's deep, man. So, hey, you heard him, and again, the reason I like Major is because more than anything, more than Republican, more than Democrat, he's my brother in Christ. And so, I got to do something real quick, man. Before we hop off, fair or foul. I want to do a quick fair or foul. We haven't done fair or foul in a while. But here's a fair. What fair or foul is, Major, is we basically, I tell y'all about a story, and then y'all say it's either fair or foul. And so here's my fair or foul today. So last week, my second son, my 4-year-old Gavin, he started school. He goes to private school, and so he's actually physically able to go to school right now. And so we take him, and so the first day we drop him off, my man like has a fit. Like, my man's crying, screaming, like going crazy. Like, we just had to leave him with the lady, and Kimberly's like all in tears. I'm like, you making it worse. Like, stop. Like keep it together, boo. Keep it together right now. So So he's out there screaming, or she was like, should I stay? I just want to hear him until I know he's. I'm like, no, you making it worse for yourself now, because now you're just hearing this dude scream.
Right.
So anyway, long story short, today I took him to school today because my wife had to go run some errands this morning. So I go drop him off, and so I kiss him and everything like that. And so as he's because of the COVID practices, we can't walk him to class. The teacher has to walk him there. So teacher starts walking in the class down the hallway, and I'm like, all right, Gavin, I'll see you later, buddy. I love you. Is it fair or foul that my son just said bye and didn't even look back at me? He was like, bye. I'm like, so you're not even gonna acknowledge your pops? Like, all right, pops, I'll see you pick me up. Love you, man. Like, he's like, bye. Didn't even look back. Didn't even break stride. Like I was bothering him or something. So
he hit you with the whatever.
Yeah. So fair or foul that my son just dogged me out like that this morning.
So what is your son's name?
Gavin. Oh yeah.
His Gavin?
Yeah.
Tell Gavin that was foul. He can't do us like that, man. He can't do us like that.
Thank you, Major. Of course,
I'm gonna go fair just because he's tired of his dad. We all get tired of Ryan eventually, so we treat him the same way. So that's fair.
I love you out the window, like real loud for everyone to hear.
No, I will the next time. No, I'm gonna embarrass him next time. I'm gonna be like, hey, give me a kiss.
And you gotta wear something crazy. Like you gotta come with like a crazy outfit.
Oh,
like,
I'm gonna embarrass him. I'm gonna embarrass him now. You wanna play your daddy like that? I'm gonna come just like with old white beater on with a coffee stain on it. Holy.
Hey, put on some genie shoes with the little pointers on.
I'm gonna grow a beard out like AJ. That would be the most embarrassing thing of it all. So, but hey man, but we love you guys. Thanks so much, Major. I want to give a quick shout out to our podcast sponsor, which is Thin Line Anthem. If you are all about your health and wellness, make sure you go to thinlineanthem.com and type in promo code It's Needed, all caps, no spaces, so that way you guys can get your protein, your pre-workout,
omega-3s, vitamin packs.
Oh yeah, see, Billy feeling himself right now.
Omega-3 is where it's at.
So make sure you guys check them out, because they're phenomenal product, and they've invested in us, and we're investing in them. So Major, man, I wish you nothing but the best of luck, my brother. We are longtime friends. Whatever you need from me, just shoot me a holler, man, and we'll make it happen. So love you, bro.
Thank you so much.
AJ, thanks as always, Billy. And until next time, we'll see y'all next week.
Peace.
Thank you, guys. God bless you.